Good morning. It's Monday morning, September 21st, 2020. It's Phil Morse here, project manager of the Narcissus Project at Seashore Trolley Museum in Kennebunkport. And this 50-foot trailer is used for storing materials that are being used in the restoration of the 1912 Portland-Lewiston Interurban Narcissus. And inside are the old and new side sills for the passenger compartment of the Narcissus, and they're being positioned and set up for the mortise holes and drill holes. And Seth Reed is here, and we're going to talk about how that got set up, because they'll be doing the mortise holes maybe as soon as later, well, setting it up perhaps as soon as later today, and starting work on it this week. Morning, Seth.
Good morning, Phil.
So, you got your hands full here.
You betcha. Yeah, right at the moment we have two new sills cut from old material, which took quite a while, but they're finally here and they look really good. Where we're at right at the moment is we have one of the original sills, obviously that one, clamped together with one of the new ones, and we're working on transferring over the work we have to do, which consists of a couple of different stages of things. There are square and rectangular mortises for both double posts and single posts, laid out every few feet, which are transferred right over, along with the accompanying bolt holes, because each one of the double posts has a half-inch rod, ties top to bottom.
Now, when you say double posts, those are the window posts?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, they are. They're two pieces of 1.25 inches with 3.5-inch spaces between them, so they set a little bit wider. There are vertical holes which connect the top of the car to the bottom of the car, in this case a sill. There's also horizontal holes which run through the sides, run side to side, and again, this original sill, the way the top bevel is cut on it, which is another step in the process. The steel channel iron fits over here and sort of encapsulates
So if I do a little profile of this, we'll see where that that has been shaped.
Yeah, it's just a slight, it's about a 7-degree bevel.
A little taper on it. We can see it
and
here.
that steel sandwiches right over
Yeah.
that and holds that right in place. So holes in the steel.
And so where that steel channel is, the flat plate of that is what bolts up against the floor joists of the passenger compartment.
And then the whole mess gets bolted side to side, sandwiched with the two sills, the steel, the plate through the other side of the car. There's also an extra series of holes here of different sorts for the mounting trusses, which are cast plates that mount on the bottom. So the bolt runs down through here. Those have to be located according to the cast iron plate. And also the, where to go here? The trickiest ones are going to be the angled holes here, which attach to a iron waist rail that runs across beneath the windows of the car, set inside the wall, and that is an 1.1 round bolt that bevels down through that way, catching a cast iron cleat on the bottom. So the big angle there, those ones are going to be a little tricky to drill, but we got a couple options we're looking at for how to do that. So this has to be done in stages, taking the measurements taken from the original sills, double checking every single one to make sure that it matches up with whether it has a mounting plate, a truss plate, something or other else, to make sure they're all in the right spot. And once we double check this one more time, take it inside fairly shortly. Sometime this week we have an 1.25 inch square bit for the hollow chisel mortiser that we'll be doing the mortises with. Drilling out a guide block for drilling the holes nice and square and plumb. And it's just going to be a lot of slow, careful, double checking one more time before we cut, before we mortise, and inching the thing along. It'll take up most of the length of the entire wood shop, so we've rerouted traffic inside of there to allow people to work around.
Yeah, because these are 37 feet long,
yeah,
right?
Roughly, yeah.
And what do you guesstimate for a weight?
Off the top of my head, I would say probably 400 pounds a piece.
Yeah.
They are manageable with either a couple of guys. I got these ones into place alone last week, just using a lot of levers and taking a lot of time and making sure where my toes were. But they're not, it's not the weight that's so much an issue, it's the fact that they're pushing 40 feet long.
Right.
And they got to go out the trailer, down the steps, around the corner, in the shop.
Yeah.
Probably open the door in the metal shop and stub them in there for one section, and stub them out the entry door for the other sections.
Yeah, there's the restoration shop there. So you'll be using a good portion of the length of the woodworking shop part to work in either direction. So.
Take a lot of patience
So-
to understand
so,
everyone else in the shop.
So you have some markings already here, so can you describe a couple of these?
Well, first thing I did for the wall posts, for example, which I replaced most of on the car early on. The double posts, as you said, are the window posts, as opposed to the single posts here. What I did for those, using a larger square, the plumb measured over across from there, put a tick mark on each end of the mortise, double check the length of that versus the length of what I'd drawn, just because the original sill on this particular case has a pretty significant twist from one end to the other.
Okay.
So what we did is we clamped basically one half of it tight as we possibly could, worked our way down towards the center, eased off the clamp on that end, applied pressure to the clamp on the other end so that we could keep it flat,
Nice.
tight, and plumb
Yeah.
without distorting where the measurements were.
Yeah.
Which is why every time I carried over a set of measurements, I double check the length of them, because even though the square line's up here, if it's out of whack this way, you pick up a 16th or an 1/8 or whatever, over 40 feet, that can kill you. So this particular mortise, I carried over the square mortise. This one also for the tie bolt that runs from the top plate down through to the bottom of the
Yeah.
sill.
So I'm going to come right over and look
Yep.
now for that. Yeah. There's that.
I plumbed up with a dowel from that hole.
Yeah.
You have a smaller mark in there, label it with an O for a bolt, so those will get drilled as well. Same thing is true for the double post, is twice as much. 2 mortises, carried those over, double checked out, referenced off the original and the distance between the mortises inside, distance outside to outside. Also located the bolt hole there. This one has a single vertical bolt that runs down through it. So every single one of them just working that way. Also, once I laid it out, went through with a tape measure, measured, okay, what's the outside of this mortise to the outside of the next mortise. Check
Yep.
that on, there's so many places to lose.
Yeah. So about how many holes will you have to between mortise and drill holes and things? Do you have some sense of how?
A bunch. A big bunch. I haven't counted.
Yeah,
Ernie
okay.
probably could tell you. Ernie
Now
has
I
done-
noticed that you have a schematic here. It looks almost like a CAD drawing.
It's amazing. Ernie is really amazing with this stuff, and he has done. Ernie's been on this project since the very beginning, so he knows every piece of hardware and everything, where it goes, where it is now, what shape it's in. But he has done drawings, also a 3D virtual drawing. This is a layout of all the sills as they came off, and notations on where every needle beam bolts. He's the one that went through after I marked these out with a green tape and marked exactly what these things are. If it's not
Yeah.
a standard mortise, what sort of casting has to go on the back of it, what particular issues may be involved with that hole, with that bolt, what it connects to if it's not painfully obvious. So we've got all that on paper. Once I went through and laid out all the mortises and the bolt holes, I checked them off his drawings. He went through and notated the sill off of his drawings. It took long enough and enough blood, sweat, and tears to get these things that this is a one-shot deal. We don't have a whole lot of room for error.
Yeah.
So checking it as many times as we need to feel comfortable before we start hacking wood.
Awesome.
Um,
And this is a beautiful wood, this southern yellow pine.
It's gorgeous.
When I did the end here, I looked at how many growth rings there are
yeah,
per inch, and man, it is
part of the
beautiful.
significance of that, and the reason it took so long to get basically period wood, if you look at a modern 6x6, the growth rings on that, that's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
It gives you a much more stable and much more durable piece.
Wow. So the likelihood is that this piece here was probably farm grown.
Yeah.
You know, so they can harvest it in 30 years
Yeah,
or
farm grown,
40 years or something.
second, third, fourth, fifth
Yeah.
growth, managed so that it grows as tall as quickly as you can get a
Yeah.
6x6 out of it.
Yeah.
And then cut down that day. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much, and we're looking forward to the next phase when the first sill gets moved inside and is set up for starting to make the mortise holes and others.
Looking forward to it too.
Great. Thanks, Seth.